I believe he was the grandson, if I remember right. And this Bernice, they say is his sister, and they're not husband and wife. It's his sister, and she was a very wicked person. If you look up her history, you see. And we've talked. I think when we preached through we preached a series on Agrippa, or a sermon or two on Agrippa a while back, and we saw there that Bernice was she had married one of her uncles, and I can't remember. It seems like she had him killed, and then there's rumors and everything I read on this that no one knows exactly for sure, but it looks as though her and Agrippa were living as husband and wife at this time, and so she was a very wicked person, and she is here with him. Agrippa has come. Remember, he's been appointed king by Herod, I mean by Rome. He's not. He's a Jew, but he's not a true king. He's a de facto king, and the Jews don't really like him. You can tell that. They haven't really cared much for any of the Herod family. They were a very wicked bunch, all of them. But they come, because Festus is the governor, they come to put on a show. That's why they're there. They're there to salute Festus. Here's the new governor. They're going to put on their best for him and try to get on his side of things. And when they had been there many days, Festus declared Paul's cause unto the king, saying, There is a certain man left in bonds by Felix, and whom, when I was at Jerusalem, the chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me, desiring to have judgment against him. To whom I answered, It is not the manner of the Romans to deliver any man to die before that he which is accused have the accusers face to face, and have license to answer for himself concerning the crime laid against him. Therefore, when they were come hither without any delay, on the morrow I sat on the judgment seat and commanded the man to be brought forth, against whom, when the accusers stood up, they brought none accusation of such things as I supposed, but had certain questions against him of their own superstition, and of one Jesus, which was dead, whom Paul affirmed to be alive. Notice how Festus words this. He tells Agrippa, here's this man that's left over from the previous administration, and now I got to deal with him. He sticks to Festus tells that he's going to stick to the traditions of the Roman rule. He's going to follow their examples and their protocol as far as trying someone. He gives both sides an opportunity to speak their piece. He gives the Jews their opportunity to come to him. They come before him, present their case against Paul, and Paul gets to give his side of things. And he's done that. And he says the Jews, they brought none accusation of such things, I suppose. He says the things they are accusing him of, it's not what I thought it would be. There's nothing that they have accused him of that's worthy of death, in other words. And it says, here's in verse 19, I want you to notice, he says, but had certain questions against him of their own superstition. It wasn't facts, it was superstitions. Remember that. That's what the Jews had, was superstition. And it's false. And of one Jesus, which was dead, whom Paul affirmed to be alive. That means Paul proved that he was alive. Does Festus believe? Is he a believer? Not at this point. There's no evidence of that. But it sounds as though he's at least believing, or somewhat believing, what Paul has to say. Paul has presented more better evidence of things than the Jews have in the case. Verse 20, and because I doubted of such manner of questions, I asked him whether he would go to Jerusalem and there be judged of these matters. But when Paul had appealed to be reserved unto the hearing of Augustus, I commanded him to be kept till I might send him to Caesar. Then Agrippa said unto Festus, I would also hear the man myself. Tomorrow, said he, thou shalt hear him. Festus wants to hear him himself. Agrippa wants to hear him himself. Why? It doesn't really tell us why, but we know Paul's fixing to preach the gospel to Agrippa. And on the morrow, when Agrippa was come, and Bernice, in great pomp, and were entered into the place of hearing, and the chief captains and principal men of the city at Festus' commandment, Paul was brought forth. Agrippa and Bernice, like they're true to fashion, true to their reputation here, if you will. They come in and all this is great pomp. This is a big deal. This is the king who claims to be the king of Israel, which we know he's really not, but he puts on a big show. Him and his sister put on a big show. They've got the chief captains and the principal men of the city. In other words, they've got a military parade, and the chief or the principal men of the city, the city council, and the men that run the city are there. And then it says, at Festus' commandment, Paul was brought forth. And Festus said, King Agrippa, and all men which are here present with us, ye see this man, about whom all the multitude of the Jews have dealt with me, both at Jerusalem and also here, crying that he ought not to live any longer. But when I found that he had committed nothing worthy of death, and that he himself hath appealed to Augustus, I have determined to send him, of whom I have no certain thing to write unto my Lord. Wherefore I have brought him forth before you, and especially before thee, O King Agrippa, that after examination I might have somewhat to write. For it seemeth to me unreasonable to send a prisoner, and not withal to signify the crimes laid against him. So Festus comes before Agrippa in the crowd and tells him, this is the man, you see him before you, this is the man that the Jews have accused, that they say deserves death. I don't find it. I don't see what they're talking about. I don't see it. But when he says, but when I found that he had committed nothing worthy of death, and that he himself hath appealed to Augustus, I have determined to send him. In other words, Festus has already made up his mind. I'm sending him to Caesar. It's done. But you wanted to see him, and you wanted to hear him. Here he is, talking to Agrippa. And he tells, he says, I don't know what to write. I got to write a report to send with him to Caesar, but I don't know what to write because the accusations are so ridiculous. And he says, maybe after you see him, you can help me write the letter. And he says, for it seemeth to me unreasonable to send a prisoner, and not withal to signify the crimes laid against him. He's asking Augustus or Agrippa for help in writing a letter of accusations or crimes that are being laid against him, because he doesn't know of any. And that's where Paul is. He's innocent, and even the Roman government sees it. We'll go on to Agrippa next time. We'll stop here for tonight. But Agrippa is going to come to see the same thing, that Paul's totally innocent. He's not done anything wrong. It's all accusations from the Jews, and their false accusations in the Romans' eyes are ridiculous. Remember, Festus accused them of being superstitious. They're superstitions, and so Paul will get to. We'll read next time where Paul will get to preach the gospel to Agrippa and Bernice, and some others before he leaves Caesarea to go to Rome, and then what have we got? Three more chapters, and we're done. And but we'll see Paul as he goes. He'll preach the gospel everywhere he goes, and the Lord will continue to use him up until his death. And we say up until his death, but actually we've got his letters and his writings even now. So the Lord's still using him. And we don't think about that. We have some of the preachers of old that we enjoy, and maybe some we've even known ourselves, and we commonly think, well, their life's over with and they're with the Lord now, but you hear people talk about legacy. They have a legacy because the things they taught, the truth especially, that they taught, we have technology now. We know two preachers who are putting things on internet radio, and we've got our recordings going now. The technology's out there. We can still hear these men preach, even though some of them are either retired or they've gone on to be with the Lord. We can still hear them, and the things that they preached are still there. Just like it's very similar to what we have from Paul. We have his letters. We have the writings of Luke that wrote about Paul's journeys, and we have those things. And so, now I'm not saying that the recordings we have are not inspired by the Lord like the Bible is, but we still have what they preached, and it's a good tool to be able to go back and listen to those things. So we'll stop there for tonight.